that I myself am receiving some of what I'm giving away. Thinking I'm more responsible for the people around me, then I can't experience that thriving, that sense of peace and anticipation in the day and steadfastness, because I feel like I somehow want to help be a part of the solutions of the world.
Welcome to Thrivist, where we share real stories, psychology, practical wisdom, and hope. We're here to inspire you with stories of overcoming and the lessons people learn along the way. We believe in humanity, and we know that we can all build resilience and thrive. Or at least low-key thrive at best.
Get a chance to continue this journey around Thrivist, get a chance to offer up some new thoughts today to our listeners around different personality types and how those have impacted us, and particularly me in life.
Right, right. And so for all of you out there wondering who is our guest on Thrivist today, it is Emily. So I get to interview my co-host, Emily Bauman, about what thriving has been to her in her life. And we had a little time yesterday to kind of connect over this. And I think listeners are going to get to hear from you, Emily, from an authentic space. And that's one of the values we have at our practice is authenticity. And I think that's what we're asking all of our guests to be, is authentic, real humans, and reveal their humanity to the world, which is inspiring for others. And now you get to do that too. And so I'm so glad that you're willing to share part of your story with us and for our listeners to get to know you beyond, just being a co-host. So why don't we start out with you just saying a little bit about who you are? I know people, they know you a little bit, but maybe a little bit more of who you are. Who's Emily Bauman?
Yes, absolutely. So I have been a student and a therapist and a learner for over 20 years in our field now, as a licensed counselor, as a life coach, and really as someone that just believes deeply in the work that we get to do. And I am married. I have been married on and with my husband almost 20 years now. We are raising two children. One is a teen and one is approaching teenhood, a tween. So, I am just holding on over here for the ride, AudrieAna,
Right.
just holding on. So I've been gifted to be a mother and, develop, my own style in that and experience the reality of that. It's interesting when you work with people and talk about family and talk about relationships, and then you live it, right? And so I'm now, I've heard you say our children teach us a lot, and so I'm in that. And then also, when I married my husband, like I said, we've been together 20 years now. He had two young adult children. And so I joined a family as well. And I did not get to live in the same house. We never were under one roof together, but his young adult children were going to college when we got married.
Okay.
And so they have since gotten married, had their own families. And so I also enjoy sharing life with them and our extended family. So family is definitely a high value, and holding space for that and learning what that looks like in the different seasons.
Yeah, well, getting to know your family has been just a blessing to me. You all are a very dynamic, radiant family. And I think for listeners out there, you need to know, I think as two therapists, we can say that although we work with people and help people through really challenging situations like blending a family,
Yes.
and raising tweens and having life events like I've had, when it's happening to us, it's different, right?
Yes.
We're in it with you. It's very easy to walk alongside someone, maybe advise, support, help them process life. But when it's happening to us, our stuff gets stirred up, right?
Yes.
And so we don't just glide through life flawlessly. Okay. We just want to dispel that right now.
Yeah.
And I say that because I think that you, Emily, are a great example of, you know, being real and just saying, yes, I help others with this and I'm also in it and living it. And so I appreciate that about you. So as we were talking yesterday, thinking about what part of your life that you might want to share, um, I think there wasn't one thing. I think there were several things in your life that you began to realize there were themes. And so as
Yeah.
we're asking people to say, what are things that you've gone through in life that you can look back and say, I I'm more resilient because of those things. They are hard, but I've learned something about myself and I'm using that learning in life today. So maybe this is your story time, right? You can tell us a little
Yes.
bit about your life and what you've learned in developing resilience over your lifetime.
Yes. Well, one thing that has been a through line throughout my life, AudrieAna, is I have cherished people and really sought to see the beauty and just kind of embrace also the brokenness in humanity, in our stories,
Mhm.
and really valued walking closely with people in that. And of course, a part of relationships is that they often run their course, right? They run
Mhm.
their course, they serve their purpose. People might
Mhm.
be in your life, they say for a season, a reason, a lifetime, a few people,
Mhm.
but very small. And for me, there's kind of a through line since I was a young girl of having trouble accepting a relationship has run its course and
Mhm.
letting it go or even saying goodbye. And so, as I've been on my journey and am now at midlife, um, I can see that more clearly, how that has been a through line, really from
Mhm.
elementary school on to
Mhm.
today.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that you have discovered that letting go of relationships or saying goodbye, or if a relationship needed to move, um, you needed to move on from a
Yes.
relationship, that's been something that you've noticed is really causes some distress and you're learning to work with that. Can you give examples from points in your life
Yeah.
where that has been evident?
Yeah.
Now that
So
you look back, right?
absolutely. When a child moves up from first grade to second grade in a traditional school system, they say goodbye to that teacher. There are some acts that the school puts in place to help that child transition, to say goodbye, to celebrate, move on. I had the hardest time with that, AudrieAna. Like I would see the teacher from last year in the hall all through elementary school and like couldn't like not want to go back to them.
Mhm.
And I mean, aching pain, stomach
Mm.
aches, a tremendous sense of loss that was present at a young age. And
Mhm.
I never really got past that. My poor mom, she'd sit me down and, try to bring logic into it. And these things happen, Emily, you have a good new teacher. And I'd be like, oh, no, the same teacher. So as I went on, another thing that I remember, even like as I looked towards teenage years, my grandmother would come visit as a teen once a year. She lived in Florida. She would come visit us. And it was always such a highlight for our family. Like
Mm.
everybody just like enjoyed her opening the door and hearing her hello. Like we just loved it. And so that was such a neat time for our family. And when she would leave, AudrieAna, I rode the yellow bus to school. And by the time the bus would go around the back of my childhood neighborhood to the front of the neighborhood, I would go up to the bus driver, let her know that I was sick and needed dropped back off at home. She would
Mm.
drop me off at home. I would go to my grandma and, tell her I'm not feeling well, just to see her again for a couple more minutes, just to like
Mhm.
give her a hug, be with her again. So she'd end up driving me to school then, put me in school. And this would happen annually, annually on her once a year visit. And I still have, a wonderful connection with her. And so what I've seen is this connection piece is hard for me to transition from and let go and move on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that these stories from childhood are so precious, really. You think about it. I mean, um, and all the teachers out there probably know students like you where they have a more difficult time than the others in letting go and transitioning to a new
Yeah.
teacher. But what you're noticing is that even in teenage years, there was a little bit of, telling a white lie to the bus driver in order to get a need met. And so we could focus as parents, we can focus on you lied to the bus driver so that you could spend 5 more minutes with grandma and she could take you. But we have to look at what is the deep need underneath that was driving that. And it seems like you had a deep need to stay connected and this difficulty with transitioning out in and out of connection even for that day, even though grandma was going to be there the next day.
Yeah.
Um, what
Yeah.
do you think about that now that you're a parent? Like, what do you think about that now?
Yeah. I do think it is maybe, something that has served me in life as a superpower. And I do think it's rare. So I don't, yeah, now being a full circle moment raising children, um, it's a bit of like many of our gifts in life, when we attach deeply to people and care deeply about others, we have to harness that. There's another side to that too. And so I've really had to learn to stretch myself in that. I've had to learn more about my personality type. And there has been some great work that's been done in our field that's helped me a great deal to learn. And I've just, also had to realize that, some things in life just remain hard. I mean, even to this day, we almost moved, AudrieAna, you know this. And our family of four now almost moved 2 years ago. And we did not move in the end because multiple factors, but one of them was I did not want to leave the community that I'm a part of. And community is a high value for me. And I didn't want to do that. And God bless my husband. He was like, in the 11th hour, okay, Emily, I see this and we're staying. And, we found a way to move forward in that. So, it's transitions, which can be for everybody, can be difficult and change. We certainly work with people all the time, but it's different for me in that it's more relational transitions. That
Mm-hmm.
is what seems to really be difficult for me to navigate over
Yeah.
time. And it sticks with me. It does, like sometimes, you have a good cry about something, you grieve, you move on. This kind of seems to paralyze me for a bit.
Yeah, I think that, you spoke about it so well in the sense of we almost moved. It was, it was difficult. And my husband finally kind of relented and said, okay, we'll stay because he saw it was so difficult. But I don't know that I think what you're saying is some people we grieve, we cry, we work with people where this
Yeah.
is a normal grief. It is. You're saying for you, it paralyzes you, and I think that might help people understand just what that looks like for you. Even, we know what it looked like as a little girl and then as a teenager, but as a woman in midlife, what did that process as you were looking at leaving? What was that like for you when you're saying it was really difficult? What did you find happening every day? And
Yeah,
maybe share.
sure. It was the thought of leaving people that I care about and their children and my children, leaving them was excruciatingly painful to the point that I was crying a lot. And then I would kind of muster myself through it. Or being a person of faith, I would pray myself, okay, God, you're always doing something new, so there's something new coming. I believe that in my knower. And yet it was like the depth of grief, AudrieAna, and sorrow.
Mm.
stayed. It didn't leave. It would always, kind of come back. And we're talking about, from the time you purchase another house until you have a closing is usually 30 to 60 to 90 days throughout that time. So I would talk to my healthy supports. I would talk to my husband, talk to a couple close friends about it. Shared with me a bit in that time personally and kind of coached me in a phone call. But still, the thought of kind of leaving, that was something I truly just couldn't let go of, I guess, or didn't
Yeah.
really know how or want to.
Right, right. Yeah, I just wanted people to get an idea of, here people see you as so strong and graceful as you move through life. And we're going to hear a little more about what you've learned about yourself that's been helpful in understanding this
Yes.
sensitivity that you have. But I think it's important for people to know, like, and this was not a move across the country. This
Yeah.
was a move 30 minutes away, just to a different community within our city, right?
That's so
No,
true.
I'm,
Yes.
this was not like,
Yeah.
your husband came and said, we're going to be missionaries in China, so pack
Yes.
up, which,
Yes.
this was, you have a very special community where you built your home, and you were
Yes.
going to move to one that was closer to the school where your kids go
Yes.
to facilitate more ease. And that in and of itself was just so overwhelming and so difficult and so distressing. And we're going to learn a little more about what you now understand about yourself and why
Yes.
that is. But yes, this depth of caring that you have, and the way that really I see it, the identity of, I am connected to others. And
Yes.
I almost don't know how to be not connected.
Yes.
How does that sit?
That sits. There is a communal part to me that is been there most of my life. And yet I also am an independent person, which is interesting.
Mhm,
I can
mhm.
very much move, I can be alone, I can travel alone. And yet often my thoughts, my heart, my prayers are going out to others. There is a sense of us, we. And so whether that's the family, whether that's the bigger community, the family of God, I'm operating in that sphere. Yes.
Mhm. Was there, is there another moment? Okay, so we hit
Yeah.
childhood, early childhood, teenage, and then we
Yeah.
hit kind of almost present day a couple of years ago in midlife, a move.
Yeah.
Was there anything in young adulthood, or, early in, marriage,
Yeah.
anything you want to share that also kind of explains or reveals, highlights this part of
Yes.
you?
Yeah. So I actually was engaged to be married to another gentleman before meeting my husband, who I've been with, like I said, 20 years. And so, really the story of that one was I was in my mid 20s, and many people culturally in my circles were getting married. I was in numerous weddings, and I was like, okay, if it's going to happen, I guess I think I always wanted to get married, right? Of course I did. And so I was like, it must be time for me. This is it. And so I accepted a proposal from a really great guy, but one that the relationship was not the kind that you couldn't live without throughout your life. It was one where there was compatibility of values, there was goodness, there was friendship. There's a lot of great things, but not the kind that you want to build your life on together.
Mhm,
And I think that happens, infrequently to people in life.
mhm.
I think it can
Yeah.
happen more than once, but I think it happens pretty infrequently. And so I was like, well, this man's good. He's good to me, he's good to my family. I like his parents, whatever, okay, let's go for it. So that sounds so immature to say it, but that really kind of was it. And so I actually was engaged, and we began planning the wedding briefly, but again, there was kind of that tension of reality and the truth, stirring within me. And so thankfully, I was able to remove myself from that relationship
Mhm,
and avoid the hardship of that. But
mhm,
I look at that being an example of a relationship that had run its course, and I didn't get out of it before accepting something that would have
Mhm.
been a totally different level of commitment in life.
Mhm. So when you look back on that, um, do you see that you extended it because of this eh, sense of connection to people, almost not able to see a relationship that sometimes relationships do run their course? Did you stay in it longer than you otherwise would have, do you think? Or do you think it just happened
Yeah,
organically?
I think I stayed in it longer than was healthy. I didn't have, I was in graduate school at that time, Adriana. We know our graduate school is robust. So I
Mhm.
didn't have as much community in my life, maybe to be asking me the hard questions or to be saying, Emily, I'm seeing this, but you're not even setting the date. You're not, you know. So, I was kind of a little bit more rogue, perhaps, and just in my studies. And then, oh, I'm going to marry this guy, because when you're in committed relationships, whether,
Yeah.
the way we show up is impacting that other person significantly. And so
Right.
then it was difficult to have known, I really hurt someone that was a really good guy and was in a different
Mhm.
place with it. So to be
Mhm.
human, we all have to practice forgiveness, right? Sometimes
Right.
self-forgiveness is the hardest.
Oh, absolutely. And how difficult for someone, who has a hard time letting go of relationships to muster the courage that this is a lifetime commitment I'm about to
Yes.
make, and I need to be real and authentic and kind of trust my gut on this. So I'm sure that took a lot of courage from you.
Yes.
And then, yeah, I can totally see that that would be hard. The self-forgiveness part of I've hurt somebody because I stayed in this too long. And this is where self-compassion really can come in, and that I
Yes.
didn't know what I know now.
Yes.
And we work with clients on that self-compassion piece when we have hurt others, and that we're human. We are going to hurt
Yes.
others, and usually we hurt others out of either our wounded places or our neglected parts that we're not aware of. And then we're presented with these situations and we go, oh my, here it is. I see it now.
Yes.
And yet the damage is done.
Yes.
And you then met a wonderful man afterwards and have built an amazing family together.
I was very excited and fell deeply in love when I married my husband. But even that change sometimes, that transition,
Mhm.
Adriana, created a lot for my central nervous system of actually
Okay.
getting married. So this is a bit
Right.
of, there is some transitional anxiety, if you want to call it that. I mean, that I might call it, that
Right.
I go
Well,
through that have been with me forever. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think this is the part that I think will be super interesting to people, is that you have discovered why, a little bit of why that is, or
Yes.
you are discovering. And so I think it'd be good to transition into, you talked about your nervous system. So just
Yes.
transition into, there's so much research out now on our nervous systems. There's a lot
Yes.
out, even in socials about our nervous systems. And I love framing it that way, because so many times we look at ourselves and go, why can't I do that? Or why do I get so
Yes.
frustrated? Or why am I so lethargic to something? And, we're learning that everyone's nervous system is a little bit different.
Yes.
And you being able to manage your own nervous system is part of your work.
Yes.
And what you discovered is your nervous system is wired in a certain way. Can you share a little bit about what you've learned and maybe help me understand too?
Yes, absolutely. So I think I was in my maybe early to mid 20s, Adriana. I think it was before you and I met and I joined the practice that I learned about Dr. Elaine Aron's work around highly sensitive people and or HSP, as she refers to it as, and coined it in the 1990s. And this is really a personality trait where your personality um, allows you to involuntarily have a biological heightened central nervous system. So I do identify as someone with HSP for sure, 100% off the chart. And I process, physical and emotional and even social stimulation so much deeper than other people do. And that has been going on my entire life. No question about it. That was happening like in elementary school. That's just a part of my personality trait that I have had that I really never understood until her work and her contributions to our field. And so she has said, and now other researchers have said, probably about 15 to 30% of the population identifies as being a highly sensitive person. Now you might say, okay, what does that really mean? Okay, is that like you can't watch violent movies, Emily? Like, yes, kind of. Like I've never been able to watch like Friday the 13th when we grew up and stuff, like none of that. Okay.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but like I startle really easily, big
Okay.
time. I have a depth of processing that is always with me since I just don't even know the world without it. So
What do you mean by
experiences.
that? Just to helping
Okay.
someone, what do you
Yeah.
mean by a depth of processing that's
Okay.
always with you?
Yeah, so there is a level of reflection that is more extensive that's occurring in my day, whether I'm giving voice to it or not. And I'm reflecting on the experiences. I'm seeing connection patterns. I'm like just carefully thinking about action before I do it, and so this is a theme to anybody that identifies as a highly sensitive person is that they are reflecting extensively on their experiences and really sharing it.
Analyzing,
Yes,
assessing, constantly processing. There's
yes,
almost a non steady state. It's almost like a regular rhythm that's happening in your life that you're constantly taking in stimulus
yes,
and assessing it and figuring it out. Um, and
yes,
and so I think that's interesting that there is a subset of people. I would think a lot of people might identify with that part of HSP.
yes.
Um, but there's a depth to it that I think you're talking about. But you said also like, oh, being, what is it like to be in crowds or like at a concert or,
Okay, yes.
like 4th of July fireworks where there's so many, what's that
Yeah.
like for you?
Yeah, so because my brain is taking in so much data all the time involuntarily and it's busy and it even if I'm pursuing like peaceful environments, AudrieAna, and creating like um I can get very quickly overwhelmed in places like NFL football games, fireworks. Like I'm kind of reached my firework limit now in life. Like if I don't see them anymore, I'm okay. I've checked that box. Um, so because I'm just it's taking in so much. And so it's really wonderful. Like I said, it's kind of a superpower to see. And yet it's something that I can easily then become overstimulated is the word, and kind of want to pull out of
Mhm.
situations to
Mhm.
recharge
Mhm.
more. So that's
Mhm.
another part of this is like this um, connection, desire for connection, deeper emotional connections through the processing that occurs, but then needing like to take breaks from that to pull out because I'm seeing
Okay.
so much around in the environment, the subtleties, the cues, the
Mhm.
reading a room really well, which many therapists we do very well. We're picking
Mhm.
up on
Mhm.
cues. And so you see this a lot in our field, HSP, you see it a lot in helping professions, in ministry. You see this a lot, people that are
Okay.
operating more in
Yeah.
this way.
Well,
Mhm.
it sounds like there's a setting kind of in the nervous system of being highly attuned,
Yes.
really being highly attuned to what's happening. And yeah, in many ways, that is a superpower. You can walk into a room and see somebody who maybe is in a corner, not talking to others, and you can identify that and go in and try to help them feel included. Like there's a lot, you might notice a lot more things. And I think sometimes our superpowers, the other side of that coin, it can be a weakness in that there's
Mhm.
just so much data that it just overwhelms the system. And so you have to pull back and recharge and kind of make sure that you don't watch those horror movies or you don't watch the news too much or, things that really, really impact you. How
Yes.
does it play out in relationships for you? Because we were just talking about that's kind of like the
Yes.
wider view of HSP, but
Yes.
as you look back in your life, and we're focusing on how relationships have been so deeply important to you and sometimes even overwhelming and cause grief. And um, how is HSP playing out in relationships?
Yeah. So another trait that is unique to HSP is an emotional reactivity and a empathy that is really deep. And so I will often feel emotions, both the positive ones that we enjoy and some of the negative ones more deeply, intensely. I will also have a strong ability to sense what other people are feeling and then help them get language for that, which is great, in our work, obviously. Um, so how that plays into relationships then is sometimes like, you know, empathy is a very powerful tool. It is wonderful to be seen and known and empathized with.
Mm-hmm.
And so when experiencing that with people, um, personally, not so much professionally, but I think it can keep me in relationships longer than have been healthy at times because I'm staying in the empathy. And that is something that is a very powerful force and it's a beautiful force. But
Mm-hmm.
it can hinder me sometimes from seeing the reality of the fruit of the relationship still. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's run
Mm-hmm.
its course. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
With so many of our strengths, the other side of the coin is the weakness and our growth edge. And so, what I'm hearing you say is that empathy is almost like a magnetic force that pulls you into people and keeps you connected and so connected that sometimes it's more difficult to kind of rise above it and look down bird's eye view and say, is this relationship still good for me? Is this relationship still appropriate for the season I'm in? And kind of look at it from an objective or what we would call a differentiated place where
Yes.
you can really differentiate from that magnetic pull towards the person and and make a different kind of decision that's less emotionally driven. Does that sound right?
Yes, I like the way you're saying this. Thank you. That's great. I mean, should I be paying you for this at this point?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Okay, I totally appreciate that magnetic pull. And I've gotten better at not always honoring that, AudrieAna, because again, these are involuntary qualities. If you're listening out there and you think, yes, Em, this is me, I have HSP as well, right? You have a depth of processing. You get overstimulated because your brain is taking in so much data, so much noise in a day. You also have like deep empathy for others. And then you're very aware of the subtleties of environments and highly perceptive, and noticing physical nuances and surroundings that others definitely miss in a day. So if this is you, sometimes what I'm learning and continuing to learn is how to realize just because I'm having empathy for someone or something or a cause even doesn't mean that I need to take responsibility to lean into this, right? So I am, not God. I am not holding the world, in the palm of my hand, and I am just me, right? I am a lady that defines thriving today as experiencing some peace through the day and anticipation. So if I'm thinking I'm more responsible for the people around me, AudrieAna, then I can't experience that thriving, that sense of peace and anticipation in the day
Mhm.
and steadfastness, because I feel like I somehow want to help be a part of the solutions of the world, whether that's giving empathy or whatever. So that's my growth edge that I'm continually working on. That also runs into me being an Enneagram 2, where, you bring that into the mix. We could have a whole nother series to, take two now on this
We can
podcast,
hold.
but Enneagram
Yeah.
twos, right? We're motivated by love, by helping, by being great supportive players. And so again, this is part of what I'm harnessing in life and needing to pull back on at times. And I have grown in this for sure. So I'm encouraged in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love your segue from, HSP, which I know that's been super helpful for you to identify with, to learn about, to know that it's other people are experiencing this and almost like this. I think of it as like this, as you're talking, the image that comes up for me is just this hyper connectedness to anything that's happening. And that's beautiful and wonderful. And like you said, a superpower, but it also can be a kryptonite in the sense of if I can't disconnect. I have to pull away in order to really get my sense of being myself and being a differentiated person rather than being overly connected to whatever's happening.
Yes.
Um, and I kind of identify with that sometimes. What you're saying, I think I'm one of those people. I think as a couples therapist in particular, I'm just bringing my own self into this.
Yes.
I notice that when I'm at a restaurant and I see a couple fighting, arguing at the table,
Yes.
I can hardly focus on my husband. Like I am so fine, and it's so I have to almost position myself so I don't watch it because I feel the pain, right? I
Mm.
feel the pain that I'm seeing. I feel it in my body.
Yes.
And that's some of my own story of growing up with parents who had a troubled marriage. So I know it's activating my childhood wounds when I see that, and I feel that sadness again. So anyway, I think that's so
Yes.
interesting you're talking about that.
But you're right, Adriana. I mean, that is such a gift that you've used and use every day in our field, but then you're out in your personal life. You don't want to have to think about
Right,
the people around you. So you're like,
right.
why do I care so much about this couple at the next table, right?
It's like I don't
And
even know
so
them.
I don't know them, and yet why am I not staying in my own little place of personal responsibility, right? But that can be that just that the keen awareness of the world around you and wanting to, having a big heart, right? And many women listening and men listening are the same. Men definitely have HSP as well, and
Oh, that's good to know.
yeah, for sure. This is not a gender specific thing at all. And many times part of what soothes us in that, that I've learned is definitely pulling back, being
Hmm.
able to put more margin in my life than sometimes I'm comfortable telling people about, but just,
Yeah.
chilling out, pulling back, being able to enjoy the arts has helped so much, like a deep appreciation for music, for the visual arts, painting, being able to really profoundly just appreciate beauty and the outdoors and the gifts that we know come through being outdoors that we see again and again through science. And so, there are gifts in that, but it's almost like I'm having to continually learn in the different seasons how to also recover well so that I'm coming into
Right.
the world every day fresh and
Yeah.
filled up and doing my part and not too much, not living with that heightened responsibility either to others.
Right. Well, and that leads me into the Enneagram world because you and I share a number. I have a wing too. But yeah, the Enneagram who leads with a type 2, the helper who really feels like they are valuable when they are helping others. And this idea of this is how I'm earning my value, gaining my value is by helping others. And there's two sides to that coin that,
Yes.
you and I have talked about the, all the wonderful strengths of that and being others focused, that your focus is on helping others, your focus is
Yes.
on seeing other people who have needs, trying to fill those needs in some way or be available, or you're such an encourager. That is one of your great gifts. And the other side of that is, when do I turn that off? When do I recharge my battery? And what if people don't want the help? What is my responsibility? What if that couple sitting over there is like, hey, we do great when we fight. We have great, you know, conversation, and conflict brings back closeness, right? Why in my leaning into,
Yeah,
why do I need to
totally.
help them? Why do I need to worry about them?
Yes.
So what about the Enneagram has helped you understand this lens that you approach the world? with?
Yes, that at times can be involuntary again, right? This is just our daily motivations, which is the Enneagram is so cool because it helps us understand and normalize, just kind of how we get up and see the world. I want to help, I want to serve, and that's part of what my role is today. And I know it doesn't give me my value, AudrieAna. I know that here, but it's difficult sometimes to stay in that all the time, and say,
Yeah.
I'm not here to earn worth and value. I have that inherently. I know that. And, um, you know, I can anticipate needs. So let me help. Let me help make this better. And so, just keeping that in check. I think the biggest growth for me throughout my life has been making sure that I myself am receiving some of what I'm giving away
Mm,
and getting to a point where I see, who am I allowing to fill me and
mm,
what do I want? Because for some of us, and I believe this is, you tell me, traditional to Enneagram 2, we're always others outward.
right.
And then it becomes imbalanced and it becomes not as solid as relationships need to be to take the test of time. So it
Mm-hmm,
becomes, hey,
mm-hmm,
here's what I'm receiving from you as well.
mm-hmm.
And this is, I'm choosing you because there's growth I'm receiving from you as well. And as you share yourself and as we go through life together. And sometimes that I have been out of proportion with that because of that need to be a helper and that high empathy. And that hasn't, that's, I've had to learn that a little bit the hard way.
Wow. Okay. Mic drop. If anyone out there leads with Enneagram 2 and you want to know how to do shadow work, just replay what Emily just said. Because the shadow work is the work that we sometimes are unaware of. It's subconscious. We're not, it's our blind spots. And for the two, it is really, really hard to receive. It is so much easier and more comfortable to give than to receive. And we know that one of that the greatest struggle for those that lead with two is pride. And people say, "What do you mean pride? That sounds so nasty." Well, it's that I am in the one who is helping you. I don't need anything, right?
Mhm.
That's where
Yes,
that pride comes up.
yes,
I don't need anything, but you need me. And I
yes.
know what's best for you. And so I'm going to assume that and give to you. And so the shadow work is I can be vulnerable and I can receive. And
Mhm.
that brings balance to the two.
Yes.
And that is, there is a give and take in relationships. And if I'm always giving, I'm in the power position.
Mm,
I'm the one in control. When I'm giving, I'm leading and I'm in control.
yeah,
And I'm also telling others, you need me more than I need you.
yeah.
And so if you're a two out there, take heed to what the work that Emily has been doing and saying, bringing balance in her life to make sure that she is willing to receive, to make sure that she is um, giving the message out to others that I need you as much as you need me. And that's how we work with kind of the shadow, the pride part of the Enneagram too. So thank you so much for sharing that and how you're using both HSP, which really does blend into leading with an Enneagram 2 lens, that both of those are so externally focused. Both of those are very hyper attuned to the rest of the world. And so it sounds like you bring balance to yourself and the work that you've done by really pulling into time with yourself. You said time in nature, time in
Yes.
beauty, art,
Yeah.
music. Um, and I know you also, love to garden and bring beautiful flowers into the office and into your home. So you're a lover of beauty. And it's so neat to see how you're using those things to keep yourself centered and grounded,
Yes.
in
Yes.
who you are.
Thank you so much for that, Adriana. That is all accurate. And the pride piece, if I can talk about that for a minute, because you're right, it
Sure.
does sound nasty. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's the other side of two is I'm doing all this stuff to feel one up from you, like, or feel I'm in the power position. Yuck, right? There is some truth in that. And the other growth edge for me as I've gone through life is realizing um my, I am not responsible for all these things, right? I am a human lady that will disappoint you, disappoints myself, and will disappoint God and disappoint my husband at times. I mean, I am human, okay? And so who do I think I am, right? That I can be available to all these people as a two or as a therapist, right? Who do I think I am that I can without burning out or giving the leftovers to the people in my own home, right? Who are just with me for a short amount of time. So I wanted to share this quote today because this is really what I'm talking about. This pride and this um, movement towards hyper responsibility to others, not for others. We know that's not healthy, but to others. And it's by Timothy Keller. And he is one of my favorite authors. And many of our listeners probably have heard this, but I think I think we can all not hear this enough. He says, to be loved, but not known is comforting, but superficial. To be known and not loved, that is our greatest fear. But to be fully known and truly loved is, well, a lot like being loved by God.
Mm, love that.
And I love that. And, I am a person of faith, and it's God's job to hold the world in his hand and be responsible for healing and growth and sustaining life, right? I mean, again, who do I think I am, with knowing that I am a vessel he uses. You are a vessel he's using every day, but I have limits. And I um, am activated, by different things myself. And so I think that's where the pride piece comes in, is I've
Yeah.
learned letting go of people and being able to release them and realize that, that is holding my right position in the world and not getting too full of myself.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Does that make sense? I
Oh,
mean,
yes. I
yeah.
love the way you're explaining the pride piece because with all of the types, there's a shadow side, right? And none of those sound really great, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, resentment, pride, vanity. They're not fun words, but I love the
Right.
way I love the way you're explaining the pride is really like, who am I to think that I am responsible for everyone in my life? What I think there are many people, regardless of
Yes.
type or HSP or not, that are over functioners, that are over responsible,
Yes.
that get very distraught if the people in their lives are not doing well, that the fixers of the world. If you're a
Yes.
fixer in the world, this is your work to do,
Yes.
is to give up responsibility. And you said, who am I? I'm not God. God holds the world together, right? Give up being responsible for others, and even manage how much responsibility you have to others. And remember that there's a much bigger plan, and whether it's the universe or God or however you see it, we cannot control all the things.
Yes. Yes.
And we all seek to do that in different ways. So I love how you're explaining the pride, is that sometimes we really do think that we have more control and more responsibility, and we forget we have limits. And that's huge for both our types that we lead with, is knowing
Yes.
our limits.
Limits and thinking, I mean, again, I mean, I'm not like beating up on myself right now, but thinking that I know better, right? That as a two, I
Right.
know better. I can help you with this. I know better. I've been, it's like, okay, maybe they didn't ask. And maybe that is, again, taking away someone else's journey, their own unique
Right.
journey. We all have a unique journey. And sometimes I've learned too, like there might be multiple great ways to do things in life. Just my way
Right.
isn't the only way, right?
That's
So,
right. Right. Right.
anyway, so that I'm getting that pride piece in it, depending on my own health and my own self-care, that will come up throughout life. And so I have to, continue to
Yeah.
hold an awareness to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, what an amazing conversation with you, Emily. I mean, just learning, I've enjoyed just getting to know you even better, even though we're friends and colleagues, even in this conversation. And I think just thank you for the courage of being, revealing your humanity to us, of saying, hey, therapists are real people too. We notice patterns in our life. And also thank you for explaining highly sensitive people, that biological nervous system, kind of the way that you perceive the world and kind of how you're managing that. It's not as well known. And so I appreciate that you are sharing that with the audience. And we'll put in the show notes the
Yes.
person the woman that you said kind of, what was her name again?
Yeah, Dr. Elaine Aaron, and
Okay.
I believe she is still practicing and out in California. And I certainly have enjoyed working with quite a few HSPs. I mean, that's really been a niche I've been able to develop at our
Okay.
practice. And
Yeah.
often they're creatives, they're painters, they're musicians, often, they're spiritual leaders. They are people that are out, heightening creativity in the world and expression and depth of feeling. And so they're trying to harness that too and stay balanced. And so it's been a
Right.
joy to help support others in that and see the way that has grown. So, but yeah, I'm grateful for your curiosity to learn more and have this conversation too.
Yeah. Well, and that leads me to, yeah, if you are out there and think you might have HSP, Emily could be a great resource. You can email our practice, and maybe even get some coaching from Emily. But as we wrap up, let's think about the 10 pillars of thriving. Let's think about that. And I've got my list right here, and I'm thinking about the things that you have talked about that have helped you thrive as
Yes.
you have been walking through life. And one of the things that you talk about, that's one of our pillars, is pillar number 3, accepting and integrating reality. Right? Do you see that? Like
Yes.
really, really realizing particularly when you talked about breaking off an engagement and just accepting the reality that this is not the relationship for the rest of my life. And I need to accept that reality, even though I have a really hard time letting go. Um, how do you see that reality piece? Do you see yourself using that?
Yes. And I think now I'm at a point where I'm able to do a better job asking for help, right? On big transitions like moves or, key players of people coming in and out of my life. There are people every day that move because they got transferred or their spouse got transferred, right? And so I'll tell some of my, closer group of friends, like, hey, this person's moving and I do want to have, kind of a going away something. And, it's just, it is a thing for me. And so I need to honor that that doesn't change. And I was made that way. And that's helped me to really value people and really value the human connection, the experience of connection, which really then has been of great service in my professional work with people. So I
Yeah.
think being able to ask for help when those things come up,
Yeah.
let people in because I'm integrating reality. Hey, this isn't the easiest thing for me. Maybe it will be this time, but we'll
But
see.
it hasn't been lately. I
But
mean, I
yeah.
think I think I I love that, accepting reality that this is hard for me and I'm
Yes.
going to get help. That is a way to accept reality instead of just the denial of, oh, this time I'll go through this, no problem, right? So accepting reality. I think another thing you've just shown so beautifully here is knowing your story. I mean, you really looked back all the way to childhood and just seeing, this is who I am, this is how I'm wired. And so that ability to really know and understand your story and the big themes in life is what's helping you manage it presently,
Yes.
right? You really integrated that knowing your story. Um,
Yes.
and then I know for you, you practice gratitude and contentment so well. That's pillar number 6. I mean, you long walks in nature, a beautiful meal with friends. You just really practice gratitude so well.
Yes.
Such a shining example to me in the way that you practice gratitude.
Thank
And
you.
then, of course, I've got to mention strong connections, which is pillar number 8, because although sometimes it's challenging, right? Because those
Yes.
connections are strong. It also is such a force in your life that
Yes.
you participate and create community wherever you go, Emily. And that is such a strength that I see in you.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate with the community, the learning of, pruning in life. Again, back to the pride piece of an Enneagram too, that, there is pruning, there are seasons and people come in and out, and there's proximity to friendships by midlife that make it easier to cross over with certain people and not as easy. And so that's also been something with that pillar that has helped a lot. And I also learned, I know we're wrapping up, AudrieAna, but for anybody out there who's similar to me and kind of has, like this thought that they're supposed to keep their friends forever in life, basically, there's some great research out there that says that basically half of our friendships as adults end and change every 7 years. And so, there's some great research from Danielle Jackson, and she does a lot with strengthening your friendships and your community and helping us to give some permission to that. So I'll just throw that in too at the end because that
Mhm.
is a passion of mine. And I've enjoyed her work as well around this. And I'm hoping she'll be on the podcast at some point to dive deeper into community, into friendships, and so that we can give ourselves permission as women to
Mhm.
really see
Mhm.
them for what they are and
Mhm.
not feel like the guilt or I don't know if it can even almost be like a shame that they didn't
Yeah.
last or something when you move or when something happens, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, giving ourselves permission to both go very deep in our relationships and build those strong connections that we need to thrive, and also really acknowledging when they've run their course and they were there for a reason in your life and there's a new chapter. And so letting go can sometimes be difficult, but that's kind of the flow of friendships. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes too. I think if
Yes,
people want to learn more about her work, and maybe we'll have her on the podcast.
it'd be awesome.
Well, thank you so much again. Appreciate this time, Emily. Thanks for sharing yourself. And we hope all of you listeners enjoy this podcast. Please share it with your friends. Spread the word.
Thanks for joining us at Thrivist, where talk transforms and builds resilience in an unpredictable world.